Talk about the extrusion machine. We have a couple of different versions. You can see actually that blue one is one we built earlier. We have a green. We've got a different model here with a different coupling mechanism, and we have a couple of more that we've sent out to different workshops. So they all look very different in terms of because it depends on what motor we get, in terms of the mounting system that we can assemble. But they all work in a similar fashion. Low RPM, high torque motor, coupled to a barrel, and in that barrel there's a extrusion screw. And the way it works is that we have a hopper over here. If you just look over here, and in that hopper is where the recycled plastic goes. So you can see this is just shredded. In this case, it looks like PP. So shredded PP goes in here, and then. Once it's heating up right now, but once it starts off, it'll, the extrusion screw will start turning, and what you'll end up getting out of here is a filament that's out of recycled plastic. With that filament, we can make different products. So a couple things to keep in mind. Like one thing is things that can go wrong, like troubleshooting. One thing is you got to make sure that the motor is aligned with the extrusion screw, because as soon as anything's misaligned there. Then there's a lot of stress that can happen and it can break. So you can see that's one thing that we try to keep constant. Another thing is when you add the mold on here, we'll talk later about type of products you can make. But you want to make sure that you're aligning the mold with the extrusion nozzle. We got two types of designs. We have one that's using a compression screw. And we have one that's using a simple metal auger. And the only difference between the two is that the compression screw can create things like beams. So products like these that are solid beams. This is a nice example. And then the regular auger system, which is it's cheaper and easier to get in Kenya, can only be used to make filaments. So the type of products you can create here are sort of woven products. Like you can make baskets, you can make, and we'll show you some examples of those products later on. So once you, in order to start working with the extruder, the first thing you want to do is you want to plug it in. The next thing is very similar to the injection machine. We have two temperature readings here, thermocouples that are connected to 4 elements over here, and then we have sensors that read the temperature there. Again, we have the green numbers at the bottom are the temperature you're setting, and the top numbers are the temperature that it's currently reading. Similarly, we have so one of these thermocouples is connected to 2 elements, 2 front elements. The other one is connected to the 2 back elements, and similar to the injection machine, the temperature varies between the front and the back. Okay, one thing you'll notice is that we build all our machines from recycled parts. So what that means is that the RPMs on the motor differ slightly. So what you'll find is if you have a higher RPM motor, then your temperature setting is going to be slightly higher as well, because the plastic is moving through the barrel faster. So you want to make sure it doesn't burn, and the vice versa. If you have a lower RPM motor, you're going to set the temperature slightly lower, is because the plastic is moving slower through the barrel. So there's less, it's slower through the barrel. So you definitely don't want to burn it. So you want to make sure that you have the right temperature set.
Mbio ya moto ikiwa juu, tunatumia temperature ya juu hapa kwa barrel, ndio plastiki isichomeke hapa ndani. Na mbio ya moto ikiwa chini, tunaweza tumia temperature ya chini hapa kwa barrel, ndio hiyo plastiki imelt kwa barrel ndio iweze kutoka.
One really important note is that you want to make sure that you have the temperature set there and the plastic is melted before you turn the motor on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will break the connection here. You might do some damage internally. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, because what's happening is that the last time I used this machine, there's some plastic that's stuck in the barrel, and you want to make sure that it's in a liquid form before you start the extrusion screw.
Hakikisha kuwa temperature ya barrel isha set. Yani hapa hii red, ya nyekundu na ya kijani zinafanana, temperature zinafanana kabla uwashe motor. Isipokuwa hivyo moto itaharibu components zenye ziko hapa ndani.
Mentioned that the temperatures will vary slightly depending on the motor you have, but a good sort of benchmark is 210 for the back two elements, and then 220 for the front ones. And what you'll end up finding is that most likely your whatever is being extruded is going to be slightly discolored, which means it's slightly too hot. And what you can do then is slowly lower the temperature, and what you'll find is that you'll get more color coming out. But this way you're keeping your machine, you're making sure your machine doesn't break, because it's better to work a bit too hot than too cold, and then get the plastic stuck within the barrel.
Hakikisha kwa temperature ya nyuma hapa ni 210 na ya mbele ni 220. Utaona hiyo ndio temperature ya juu unafaa uanzie. Ukiona plastiki inatoka na rangi yake inakaa imechafuka kidogo, unajua temperature iko juu sana. Kwa hivyo utakuwa unajaribu na temperature ukiendelea kuweka chini, ndio ujue temperature yenye plastiki yako itatoka na rangi unayotaka.
So what we have over here is the extruded plastic coming out. If we look over here, we have shredded HDP, and what it is, in this case, it's old oil containers. So that just goes in here into the hopper, and then what's coming out, you can see, is filament. In this case, he's chosen a nozzle that's roughly, it looks about like 10 millimeters, a bit less, maybe 8 millimeters. But again, depending on the size of the nozzle, that'll depend on the size of the extrusion that's coming out. So yeah, that's it. These are some Plastiki Rafiki coasters, and what we're doing right now is we're creating the tray for those coasters to go into. So if you look over here, you'll see Bernard working he's using an old bowl as a mold, and he's just starting to extrude the plastic and shape it around that mold, which eventually will lead him to be able to create a tray like this. One thing to note is that you can see he's using about a 1 centimeter nozzle, so it's quite thick. If he, depending on the diameter of the hole, he can create thinner filament, thicker filament, or even different shapes. So for example, if you have a square nozzle, then the filament coming out is going to be square.
Hii mashini ni extruder. Unaona inatoa plastiki kwa line moja hivyo, alafu inaweza tengeneza vitu kama hizi. Hii shimo yenye plastiki inatoka, yenye plastiki moto, inaweza kuwa shimo kubwa ama shimo ndogo kulingana na kitu yenye unataka kutengeneza.